Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. If all the things you never show, then all the things I want to know. Secret stars. hearts beat through the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals that take us higher. The night's young and it's just begun as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna taste the night, wanna dance tonight. Pulls down from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sink, never stop. Every shot from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild.
welcome to Revive Hi-Fi Canada and our keeper series part 2 of Wharfedale Diamond 12.1. In the first episode we discussed mostly about the build quality of the cabinet, and I'm going to go back a little bit here and discuss the build quality and the build of the drivers that these speakers have, and that affects their sound quality essentially. And I'll first start with the woofer. The woofer is a unique new material according to the product literature. It is a 5-inch woofer, and or mid bass as that you could sometimes call it, and it's called a clarity driver. And they on the product literature it claims that they have exceptional timing and refined bass. This cone material is formulated from a blend of polypropylene and mica, which adds stiffness to reduce flexing and enabling a lightweight cone with high rigidity. It also has a damping type of surround that's around the woofer. It also has these types of stripes, ridges that are within the woofer in the cone, and I think that's also to help with the sound quality as well. The ribs, they provide further stiffening and help with the response, a frequency response of the speaker, keeping it as neutral as possible. They also have a voice coil that is wound on a high power epoxy glass fiber that has a 1-inch tweeter as well, that is made of a polyester dome. It's a woven polyester film with a high loss cloak coating to deliver open and smoothly extended high frequency, and it has been optimized for wide dispersion. And it also has a crossover network that uses a very sophisticated LKR 24 dB topology. This includes air core inductors of the type more commonly found in high-end speakers. They produce low distortion. It also has a rear port, as I mentioned on the previous episode, and a braced cabinet, which we also talked quite a bit about on the previous episode. Let's start with the highs on these speakers, and I can only say positive things about those highs. So I started out with these speakers in my listening room. I put them there in place of my monitor audio Silver 107Gs. When I first got these speakers, they played for a few weeks there, and they did break in. So the highs, at first I have to tell you, I took these speakers out of the box and I wasn't all that impressed. And then as I listened to them over the weeks, I became more and more impressed. And the highs tended to, I guess I wasn't used to it, but the highs are very laid back on the speaker, and eventually I started quite enjoying that. The reason being is that I used them with my Marantz PM6006 amplifier, and the highs became very enjoyable for long listening sessions. And there's never a point of shrillness in the highs on these speakers. They're just perfect. I love listening to them in terms of just like for long listening sessions. They're never high, but they still have every little bit of detail that you would want to find in the speaker, especially in this price class. It's pretty impressive. The mids, I would say, are outstanding. Of all the speakers that I own and that I have owned, these have some of the best sounding voices, for especially women's voices, even men's voices. The voices are where these shine. The mid-range is just outstanding. It's super clear sounding, the highs and the mid-range on these. The lows, this speaker is rated down to 65 hertz, and I never used this with the subwoofer, and these with the subwoofer, and I never felt I was missing anything. So my listening room is about 12 by 10 feet, and no, never felt like I needed to use like I never felt like I needed a sub, and that's saying a lot. I had the Eclipse R51M, or one of my first speakers that I bought new in this hobby, and rather than looking on the used market. And I have to say that those were rated in a similar range for bass, and I think they also had a 5-inch woofer. They all were also rear ported, but it's not necessarily how low these speakers go, but how the quality of the bass comes across in the music. And this is where another area where these shine, in that they are extremely neutral sounding, and if the music has more bass, you'll hear more bass. If the music has less bass, you'll hear less bass. So there's some music that I listen to, I would say I tend to refer to In Excess a lot. I like In Excess, but they're not booming. They're not a booming style of bass music, right? I mean, their music has more of a great melody and many different instruments, and this is where these speakers pick out every instrument. I'll talk more about that later. It has gobs of detail in the speaker. They don't play that bass in that music because it's not there. If there's more bass, I'll use another example. I have the Beastie Boys Paul's Boutique vinyl, and I play that through these, and you hear the bass. Not booming bass, but quality bass. So it's not gonna override that mid-range, and because that mid-range, the voices are where these are just phenomenal, I would say. And when you get down, it just has such a complete type of sound on these speakers, I would say, because the highs sound great without being shrill. The mid sound perfectly with the voices, and then the bass is just enough that you don't feel wanting for a subwoofer. With imaging and detail, I would say these are just excellent. So I have on this channel we've featured the KEF Q150, which I think is excellent at imaging as well, and these are very similar in that regard, even though the KEF has the advantage of having the Uni-Q driver that has the tweeter inside the woofer. These are right there with them, and even they have a separate woofer and tweeter. They work very well together. So that these I love them both, those speakers. So the KEF Q150 is a good comparable. I would say though that in terms of soundstage, image and detail, these do outstanding, but soundstage, vertical soundstage is something that I was very impressed with. So the vertical soundstage, I had these moved to my computer after I had them in my listening room. So I had them on my desktop, and the stands weren't very tall, so I didn't have the ideal situation. These were stellar. I was so impressed. I usually test many speakers after they go in my listening room. I put them in my computer room or in my office where I'm working, listening to music while I type, and these were the best office speakers that I had. Like the NHTSB1 that I featured earlier were also excellent, but after a while the highs are a little bit more fatiguing on those, whereas on these I had no fatigue. And the detail when you're sitting up next to them, they're excellent. So right now in my computer room I have Monitor Audio Silver 3i, vintage, I guess what would be considered vintage at this point, and those are not as good as these. These are better when it comes to the detail. These are really good. The Monitor Audios are also very good, and I'll be featuring them on this channel. They're very good for different reasons. These are just outstanding. So the highs are never shrill, the mids are stellar, and the lows are just what you need for listening to music. The sound stage is great. Like I said, vertically it goes pretty high, and the width though is where it may not be quite as big sounding width-wise as some of the other 5-inch. So I'm also going to feature the DefTech Definitive Technology SM45s that I have, and I really like those as well. They're going to be a keeper series on this channel, and those tend to have a little bit more width, but they don't have the height of these. So these are not bad by any means, but they have the not quite the same width as the DefTech SM45. They may not even have the width of the KEF Q150 as far as I can see, but it's not saying they're not bad. They're bad by any stretch of the imagination. They're excellent too. They're all excellent speakers actually, and they're all with a 5-inch woofer, and these are outstanding sounding speakers. So yeah, highs, mids, lows, soundstage, imaging, build quality. Yeah, it's tight bass. I think the cabinet and the new type of woofer plays a significant role on these. The tweeter is also just beautifully the way it sounds. So I've had a lot of other soft dome tweeters, and they don't pull out the detail that these do, and they are just, yeah, I really enjoy these. That's why they're on the Keeper series. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the sound samples that we played first on these. And thanks, and see you next time. And if you enjoy this channel, which we have just to bring interest to and discussion of audio equipment that you might find new and used in your local area, please subscribe. Thank you very much.